For this problem, it's just subtraction and addition. I'm still going to write PEMDAS out there just to kind of reinforce the steps. So again, we have parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, which I group together, and then addition and subtraction, which I group together. So it doesn't matter how you appear, so going from left to right, if you see a subtraction before an addition, you do it. So here we can see we have subtraction and then addition and subtraction. So just as you're doing it from left to right, you need to convert it. So one of the things I want to point out before we start is we do have a parentheses here. There's nothing to do with inside the parentheses, but it does have a subtraction in the front of it. So anytime you subtract a negative, that gets turned into a positive. So this negative and a negative will turn into a positive 5. So it's going to go from subtracting a negative 5 to just adding 5. So I'm going to do that in red just to kind of emphasize that a little bit. So it's plus 5. And I'm going to keep everything in the original spot just so you can kind of see how it works from left to right. So I have negative 8 plus 5 plus 8 minus 10. Now eventually when you get a little further in your algebra, you're going to see, oh, this negative 8 and this positive 8 cancels each other out. So I could just cross them off and just deal with those two. But I want to do the practice and just kind of go back and forth and figure out what this negative 8, the positive 5, the positive 8, and the negative 10, how they how the value that's when you simplify it will adjust. So we have negative 8 plus 5. So negative 8 plus 5 is going to give me a negative 3. So I have negative 3, and then I'm going to bring down the positive 8 and then the negative 10. Okay, so we have negative 8 plus 8. So negative 3 plus 8 is going to give me a positive 5. Now I'm going to leave the positive there just to kind of remind you that that's a positive number, and then I'm going to subtract 10 from that. So now I have a positive 5 minus 10, and that's going to take me to negative 5. Okay, so if you want to see this going from a horizontal to a vertical, let's do it over here. So we have negative 8 plus 5. So if you remember back when you first learned how to add a positive and a negative, you put the bigger number on top and the smaller number on the bottom, ignore the signs, and you just do straight subtraction. So 8 minus 5 is 3, and then I keep the sign of the bigger number. Okay, so that negative 8 is the bigger number, so it's negative 3. Okay, so then I have negative 3 plus 8, and it's the same thing. I would subtract 3 from 8, so the bigger number is 8, the smaller number is 3. I'm subtracting 3 from 8, and that's going to give me a 5, and then I keep the sign of the bigger number. So in this case, it's a positive 5. So here's that positive 5, and then I'm going to subtract 10, and I'm going to do the same thing. Look, that's my bigger number. 10 is my bigger number. I'm ignoring the signs. 10 minus 5 is 5, and then I go back and look and say, oh, the negative 10 was the bigger number, so it keeps the negative 5. So the negative 5 is the final answer. So we're ending up with this negative 5 or this negative 5 if you want to switch it into a vertical problem. I'm not saying that this is the best way to do it, but people sometimes get lost when they work with a big, long, horizontal numeric expression like that. So it's okay to switch it over to vertical.